Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Broads. We are broadcasting live from the Manscaped Man Cave. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. It is time to look forward now. What happened with the Ravens, it happened. Now it's time to focus on the Giants. And we have a segment on 97.3 ESPN where you can text into the text board and ask us a question. Ask Mike Gill and I a question and we will answer. And one of the questions we had yesterday I thought was very interesting. How demoralizing would it be if the Eagles actually fell to the Giants? And there's no doubt about it, it would be crushing. Based off of what you saw against the Cardinals when the Dallas Cowboys played the Cardinals, I can't believe I'm saying this, and it shouldn't be the truth, but this is reality. This is the Eagles' division to take. And I know every team in the NFC East is probably saying that. The Giants are probably saying that. The Washington football team is probably saying that, which is a joke. I know the Cowboys are saying it. They're saying, hey, if they can figure themselves out, this is their division. But in reality, this is the Eagles' division to take. If they fall to the New York Giants, that is a big-time haymaker right to the jaw, and it shouldn't happen. With what's happening with the Cowboys, you're hearing all these reports about what's happening internally. They don't really trust the coaching staff. The coaching staff is a nightmare. While Doug Pederson is definitely not perfect, he stresses me out. I question some in-game decisions, which matters. When you're an NFL coach, it matters. He doesn't seem to be prepared enough. He doesn't seem to think on his toes well enough, and that is something that you need to do perfectly, essentially, when you are an NFL coach. But when you look at it from what he does bring to the table, which we all understand, the strongest part of Doug Pederson is keeping the locker room together, is keeping everyone on the same page. When adversity hits, that's when he does his best work. The problem is adversity seems to hit every single damn year when their backs are against the wall. Every single damn year, that's when he shines. But once again, the problem is it's happening every single year. But when you look at what's going on in Dallas and the locker room issues, that's when you need to praise Doug Pederson for what he does. Now, you can ask the question, is that enough? If he keeps everyone on the same page, but he can't draw up a good two-point conversion play when the game is on the line, even though it was going to be for a tie and not for a win, it was a crucial point in the game, and how he's not thinking 3 steps ahead, that's where I get concerned. But you can't just pretend as if what he does do with these 53 men in that locker room doesn't matter, because you can't really teach that. You don't have that. It's either you have that or you don't have it. And Doug Pederson does have a skill set that is very unique, that is powerful in this league. I think it just comes down to morphing a phenomenal coaching staff around Doug Pederson, people that he trusts, people that the organization trusts. And when you have a good mold and a good crew, that's where Doug Pederson will do his best work. For example, I think Jim Schwartz is a phenomenal defensive coordinator, but just a defensive coordinator. I don't think that he has what it takes from a head coaching standpoint to be that guy. He doesn't have that personal relationship that it takes to be a head coach. Doug Pederson does, and you're seeing the extremes. So while I'm frustrated with Doug Pederson, I'm bothered by Doug Pederson, I question Doug Pederson, I'm not going to not value what he does that's so solid and so important. It's so important that Doug Pederson, when 1-4-1, can keep everyone thinking, hey, we got this. Keeping everyone playing for one another and playing for him. You know me, when it comes to professional athletes, I always raise this question. How much does a coach have on a player playing hard? And I say this specifically a lot with the NBA. These players are pro athletes, right? It's not little Jimmy playing Pop Warner or playing Little League Baseball where the coach rah-rahs them to death. But in football, there is another element With the NBA, these players go out and ball. These players have the killer instinct or they don't have the killer instinct, that type of mentality. In football, though, I do think that there is more of a player-coach relationship, a player-coach hype-up just based off of the nature of the sport. So I do think that that's valued in a sport like football, especially when a record is 1-4-1. It's easy to rah-rah them to death when you're 10-2, when you're 9-3, when you have 8 wins on the season and it's week 11, right? But when you're down, when you're ugly, and we heard Carson Wentz, we heard people speak to the media and say, we're close. We're close. They could feel it. We're close. And at the time, thinking, shut up. We are not close. We are so far away. I think you do drugs. We're not close. But over the last couple of weeks, you're talking about a dominant Ravens defense, a dominant Steelers defense, and this Eagle squad, when they have nobody on that offensive line, when they have a lack of weapons, they go down and they score points. And it does seem like their offense is getting going. Now, you take a step forward and you take steps back because Zach Ertz out, Miles Sanders out, but maybe Deshaun Jackson's back in the mix. Alshon Jeffrey still up in the air. This is being recorded before that injury report drops on Wednesday. That is something that needs to be addressed, and Lane Johnson might give it a go, which is big, but if he doesn't go, you need to find a way to get that right side of the line figured the hell out. That's where you got to give this Eagles organization a ton of credit, because if you watch Dallas versus Arizona, that's what it's supposed to look like when you're banged up offensive line plays. Now, granted, it did look that way last week for the Eagles, but it was basically because of one position, one right guard. Everybody else held their own for the most part. There were a couple quarterback hurries and a sack on the left side one, but nowhere even close to that dumpster fire of Brown at right guard. If Lane Johnson can't go, they need to figure something out big time over there. And the answer's not Brown. He should be cut immediately. You can't ever utilize him ever again. It's bad. It's real bad. All right, let's get into some of the matchups with Thursday's game against the Giants. Look, the Giants' defense statistically isn't that bad. You think of the Giants' defense, oh, they're a joke, they're horrendous. It hasn't been that bad. They're actually 8th in the league in rushing yards allowed per game. Now, here's the thing. Miles Sanders isn't there. Boston Scott's going to be probably the main guy, although you're working Corey Clement. They'll probably throw in a third back as well and utilize some sort of rotation. But I sense that Doug Pederson's going to get away from the run game. Shocker. Because he doesn't really have that many weapons back there. We said this heading into the year. It's almost as if we can talk about roster flaws. Well, heading into the season, we talked about a Carlos Hyde. We talked about a Freeman. We said Miles Sanders was not enough, and we keep saying that he's a 3-down back. He hasn't had a second half touchdown. He hasn't scored in the second half. He's always banged up. He's fatigued. He's out of shape. He's not really a 3rd-down back right now. Now, his skill is there to be one, but he is not morphed into one yet. That is a roster flaw heading into the season because Corey Clement, he's got nothing left to give. He should not be on this football team, and Boston Scott has been very underwhelming. Absolutely. I sense that Doug Pederson's going to get away from the run game, especially factor in that this offensive line for the Eagles is not perfect. Now, Lane Johnson giving it a go possibly, that adds another layer that can change the way that maybe this run game goes, but I am concerned for the run game looking at the fact that the Giants are not bad in that category whatsoever and the fact that there's no Miles Sanders. But the last time Boston Scott had a nice how do you do, it was against the Giants, so maybe there's something there. Maybe we can use the screen game, huh? It's not rocket science here. Let's use the screen game. Let's get guys with the ball in their hands. Give Boston Scott a chance to run. Get out, make some blocks. Come on. But I feel that by the end of this, we'll be talking about a situation where Carson Wentz drops back a ton. And with the tight end position, you're looking at Richard Rodgers as your tight end one. That's the nature of the beast. Fulgham, possibly D-Jax. I keep saying possibly because how many times have we heard he's close, and you don't get him? Ward, Hightower, J-Jaw. I saw that replay today, this morning, of that touchdown pass to Fulgham in the back of the end zone with 2 defenders on him. And the play where Carson Wentz, you watch him in this throw. Ike Reese actually tweeted it out, and he gave you that standard generic. If Pat Mahomes did this, you'd be seeing them talk about it all over the place, which is true. He threw on his back foot, 3 defenders on him perfectly in a position where Fulgham can go up and get the ball at the highest point. That was an incredible throw. The speculation that, that was a bad throw and it should have been picked off, but he got lucky because his wide receiver made a play. Welcome to the NFL. If you watch Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, these players throw 50-50 balls up and their wide receivers make the play, you can argue that, that was just them throwing the ball up and their wide receiver makes the play. It's just different because we are never accustomed to seeing the Eagles receivers actually do that. That's the monster difference. I'm excited to see what Fulgham can do, though, against this defense. They're about middle of the pack in points per game at 25.3 points per game. Middle of the pack or so in passing yards per game. So their run defense has been shocking. Not that it's elite or dominant or anything, but just shocking compared to what you expected the New York Giants to be heading into the season on that side of the football. But speaking of defense, the Eagles have a defensive front that should be able to eat in this game. Malik Jackson won't be available. Fletcher Cox should do damage. Hargrave in the mix. I want to see more of Avery. I saw a game by Avery where he was killer. He was stellar. He was awesome. He had it was something like 15 snaps and he hit the quarterback 5 times. It was something like that. We need a game like that out of Avery. Derek Barnett, we talked about how one of the games this season was arguably the best game we've ever seen out of him in his entire career as an Eagle, and then he has been pretty damn silent since. Where the hell has Derek Barnett been? You could argue that Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat are your best pass rushers. The defensive front should be able to do so much damage that Daniel Jones doesn't know what to do with himself. Saquon Barkley, huge loss for their offense. But Darius Slayton returning, Shepard, they have some guys out there. Darius Slayton, he can fly. He's a hell of a player. Now, he's coming back, banged up. He's not 100%, but the kid can make plays. He can flat out do great things out there on the field. What is the Eagles secondary going to be? As I was recording this podcast, Doug Pederson was speaking to the media, and he said Duke Riley and Avonte Maddox expected to play. So there is something to be added to this conversation. And I will talk about that more on Thursday's podcast on Game Day. You saw Robey-Coleman play the outside last week. He's 5'7". I just don't know how that's going to hold up. He's not an outside guy. Maybe you utilize Will Parks. I'm not a huge fan of Robey-Coleman, though. That's just daring people to go in that direction. I want to look up exactly Will Parks' size. Because Robey-Coleman, I know that he just can't play on the outside. So Will Parks is 6'1", 192. Which is way better than Robey-Coleman, and I think maybe you can utilize him on the outside. They put Jalen Mills back at safety. Just something to look out for. What is going to happen on the opposite of Darius Slay? You're probably going to have a lot of different pieces in there. Hell, maybe you get more Davion Taylor. I think at this point, throw him into the fire. We were talking to Andrew DeCecco on 97.3 ESPN Football at 4 with the Inside the Birds crew, and he said, look, he's a guy who is a hell of an athlete, but right now it would be like a chicken running with his head cut off. And he's just running around trying to make plays. Fine! I know Nate Gary doesn't work. Put in Alex Singleton, put in Davion Taylor. Give me that. Give me that duo. I'm not saying that's a great duo by any means. I'm not saying those are 2 great linebackers. I'm telling you I'm done with Nate Gary. I'm telling you it doesn't work. By the way, not that this is all Nate Gary's fault, but out of the 4 losses the Eagles have so far this year, someone has won Player of the Week in those games. Whether it was Campbell from last week who did damage, whether it was Claypool, whether it was, any of these guys. What were some of the other losses this year? Was it Kerrigan who won it the first game against the Washington football team? Let me look up who it was here. So I'm drawing a blank on who the other ones were. It was Claypool, it was Campbell, it was Kerrigan in week 1, and it was Kaiser in week 2. I mean, come on, man. That's bad. I'll tell you what's not good. Definitely not good. Use the screen, Doug. Getting back to our running game here. Use the screen, Doug. I want to see screen games. I know that was probably the most random transition ever, getting back to what matters here in the X's and O's. But I need to see the screen game utilized in this game. I think you could be able to exploit some matchups in that area. Ultimately, come on, Birds. Come on. There's a situation that nobody wants. An NFC East that is this embarrassing. Nobody wants that. But it's sitting right in front of you. And a win here will put you at 2-4-1. And who the hell knows happens from there. That's the scary thing. Who knows? Maybe it snowballs into something positive. But as the weeks go on, I'm watching Carson Wentz play better, which is the huge thing. I had no clue what the hell was happening through the first 3 weeks. I figured he'd snap out of it because if you look statistically throughout his career, that's not who he is. That's not what he has done throughout the 4+ seasons of his career. So I figured he'd snap out of it at some point. And now that he is, that could be the difference. But the offensive line needs to play better. I don't know what's going to happen if Lane Johnson's out, if Lane Johnson can't go, if Lane Johnson's in and out of snaps. Whatever happens, I just don't know how that offensive line. You can't continue to take 16 hits in a game and think that you're going to be a successful football team. Whether you hung in there with the Ravens or not. But based off of what I saw against two great defenses, they should be able to move the football even without Zach Ertz and Miles Sanders. Now, I'm not trying to downplay how effective they are, but I think that there should be enough, which is crazy. Crazy. I think there should be enough if Deshaun returns, if Fulgham plays well. Maybe you get Hightower on a big play and he actually catches the damn football because he does continue to get open, but he's got to catch the damn football. The Giants are not good, and I'm not saying the Eagles are good. But based off of what I saw over the last 2 games against some really solid defenses, you should be able to get something going here with or without Zach Ertz and Miles Sanders. This is a Doug Pederson game, right? Doug Pederson backs against the wall. I know that you are limited based off of a ton of injuries, and that matters. Doug Pederson does his best work when these situations happen. When these are available, Doug Pederson, this is when he does his best magic. By the way, this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So visit them online. Their information is down below in the description. All right, why don't we take a couple 24/7 anytime hotline calls? The phone number is 856-442-9805. You can call in at any point, and we'll react to what you have to say on the show.
Yo, what's up, bros? Love your content and everything. But going into this game, my opinion, we just need to get pressure on Daniel Jones. I mean, he is very turnover prone. And I think if we can get some heat on him, I think we can force a couple turnovers and really help our offense a lot. And I'm really liking on the improvement of Carson Wentz in these past couple games. And I think if we can just get Fulgham going, maybe get Boston Scott and the run game going, I think we can open up the play action if we maybe have time to pass.
Look, you made some great points, especially Daniel Jones being turnover-heavy kind of guy, right? He's always turning the ball over, fumbles. Here's an opportunity for that defensive front to maybe sack him, get him to the ground, ball comes loose, things of that nature. Carson Wentz has been turning the ball over as well, though. He can't fumble. He can't throw interceptions. If you win the turnover battle in this game, hey, that's a recipe for success. Win the turnover battle, and I believe that this squad, this Eagles team, should come out victorious. Make Daniel Jones uncomfortable, and I feel Jim Schwartz is solid against younger quarterbacks in this league. He knows how to get them uncomfortable, make sure they feel the pressure, make sure they feel that defensive front. That's a great thing to focus on and a great area to watch. The trenches on the defensive side, getting to Daniel Jones and making him feel the pressure constantly to the point where he's running for his life. No Saquon Barkley is an added point to this conversation, but Slayton and some of these wide receivers, Shepard, that can make a difference because Slayton can go out and make a play for him. But you're right. The fumbling has been an issue for Daniel Jones, and I think that's something that you can target. Maybe watch some film from last week of the Ravens punching the damn ball out every play and start adding that into the repertoire of some of these defenders.
Hey, bros, what's going on? This is Kyler from Illinois. Big Eagles fan here in Southern Illinois. Anyway, so this matchup against the Giants, I could see this going one of two ways. Number one, Carson showed me against the Ravens game he will not quit. That dude, I'm riding and dying with that dude. And all the people that are saying start Jalen Hurts, sit down. Your argument is invalid, and don't even talk like that. That argument is absolutely just an arrogant statement. Number two, Jim Schwartz has to get this defense cleaned up. If he does not get this defense cleaned up, granted that they don't have Saquon Barkley, I think that's going to be a somewhat kind of a wild ride.
Here's what I'll say about Jim Schwartz. Last week, he did not get out-schemed. He did not get outworked. Like, his defense, the 30 points does not do it justice on what I thought Jim Schwartz did last game. People will just focus on the points and say Jim Schwartz sucked. Jim Schwartz did not suck. He wasn't getting outmatched and all these insane plays. Your defense is what it is based off of personnel. Like, does he need to be better? Yes. I'm not saying he was perfect by any means, but it wasn't like Jim Schwartz was so bad last game that was the difference. Carson Wentz has a turnover. They have an easy touchdown. Were there some breakdowns by a bad linebacking core? Yeah, but isn't that what happens when you have the personnel that you do? With Jalen Hurts, I can't believe it took me this long to mention because after the Ravens game, I talked about it pretty damn heavily, and I have it written right here, right on my notes, and somehow I just overlooked it. You need to see more of Jalen Hurts. I talked about there should be enough to get the job done, even without Hurts and without Miles Sanders. I think what you need to do is add more Jalen Hurts, and I'm not someone who loved the pick, but I saw a spark last week, and based off of default, based off the fact of not having a lot, that's a matchup that you need to utilize. It doesn't need to be insanely fancy. It could just be some read options on run plays, whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be these throws back and forth and trickery stuff. Maybe just a running play. It's just another version of a run play, but it's a disguise and things like that. You got to use Jalen Hurts more. You picked him for a reason. I don't agree with the pick. I'd rather have a linebacker, and I hate I have to say that every single damn time, but at this point, they have him. So if they valued him at the second round, put him in there for more plays than 7 because you don't have that many weapons available. Deshaun coming back is big, and if he comes back, I have to keep saying if because you just never know with this guy, but give him the ball. You know, I was watching that Arizona game against the Cowboys, and I saw a play where it was a little pick play. They got DeAndre Hopkins the ball maybe 4 yards away from the line of scrimmage, and then DeAndre Hopkins just ran for it. Do that with Deshaun. It doesn't always have to be this over-the-top stuff, which you value clearly because he's one of the best to ever do it with that route. But give him the ball, let him work his legs, let him get some speed, let him make some plays with his legs. Do that. It doesn't always have to be the bomb, right? And you can do that with anybody. Oh, man.
First game of a 3-game stretch to all against NFC least opponents. First key of the game is simple. Win the battle of the trenches. Obviously, we need to put pressure on Daniel Jones. Don't give him time to throw the ball. Also, we can maybe get a sack fumble out of that. He's got some fumbling issues. Let's get a turnover for once. And on the offense, it's simple. We have no Miles Sanders. We're going by this running back by committee with Boston Scott and Corey Clement and probably one other running back from the practice squad. I'm not sure who it is. But, which means we're going to have to throw the ball, which means we're going to have to keep the Fulgham to Wentz connection alive. And maybe get more of those younger guys like Hightower or Watkins involved. Not sure about Deshaun Jackson, what he's going to do, but if we can get like a 50-yard bomb from Carson and Deshaun, that'd be awesome.
I'm feeling a passing game as well, just based off of what they have at the running back position. But I do think you gotta implement it. Obviously, you gotta implement it. You can't just run away from it forever. It's not a recipe for success. I'm curious what they do in that run game, how often they try and work it, who they work in to that rotation. Boston Scott did very well against this Giants team last year. Go to some film. Maybe look at what you did. Now you have a whole new coaching staff going on in New York now, so things change. And as I stated, this defense can stop the run, but be creative. You're paid to be creative. You're paid to figure this thing out. And I don't think this is Doug's strongest asset. I don't think the X's and O's is what he's tremendous at. It's more of the locker room stuff that McCarthy is failing in Dallas. That's what I value the most out of Doug. But with Fulgham and him, there's something there. No doubt about it. It doesn't matter who it is at this point. It doesn't matter if it's Marcus Peters, Humphrey, Jimmy Smith, you name it. It doesn't matter. That connection seems to be so legit. And watching Fulgham play, it's crazy how solid and strong he looks, how well he really does when he goes up and grabs the ball at the highest point. He's not afraid of the moment. He's catching the damn football. And it's wild because we shouldn't be this impressed. Like, we shouldn't be this wowed by it because teams have receivers that do this all the time. We are not used to it, though. That is what blows my mind the most. This is an NFL wide receiver who's helping out his quarterback by jumping and grabbing the football. Do you know how many teams have that available every single Sunday? 90% of them. 90.
What's up, bros? Let me give you my final thoughts on the week from this Eagles game here. I think that realistically, Carson Wentz is another, year or two out, and we just need to really take a hard look at a lot of the contracts we have and really see who we want to keep and who we need to go. Because one, we're in cap hell. Two, I'm liking a lot of the talent we have, the younger talent that we're able to develop. I think really, yes, we need to work on our O-line. Obviously, yes, we need to work on. I think that really we might want to take a look at our D-line and see if there's anyone there we want to, any big contracts. I would not, shy away from looking and, taking a hard look at Cosme Graham and being like, we're not really there yet. And in a year or two, these guys are going to be too old to compete. So.
Whoa. I'm almost blown away here. Knowing where the NFC East right now, knowing what's happening in Dallas, I know we don't want this. And I'm with you. I get that conversation is real. I know what's coming up ahead on this team in the next season with the cap money. But right now, it's about the New York Giants. It's about Thursday night football. It's about the black uniforms. It's about getting to 2-4-1 and trying to snag this damn division so Carson Wentz can play in a playoff game. That's what matters. I can't go Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham convo right now. Well, I'm a little taken back. That's someone, and look, we all recognize it. Even if they win the division with 5 or 6 wins, there's no way anyone looks at this squad and goes, well, they made the playoffs, so they're not in that bad of shape. You know they're in bad shape with or without the playoffs. But I don't know if I'm ready to go down that road yet, even though I get where you're coming from. It's just not time yet. All right, we got a couple more anytime hotline calls ready to fire off. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end the podcast. And then tomorrow, Thursday, it'll be game day. I'll give my final thoughts heading into the tilt that night. We'll implement some of those calls in that show. Thank you all so much for listening. And I will see you next time.